Hey guys, it's been a long day, but don't fall asleep on me just yet. This evening, we're going to do a sleepy time yoga sequence. So dim the lights and get cozy. It's time to unwind. For this evening's practice, we are going to do a yoga for sleep, unwinding at the end of the day, really gentle, really delicious sequences and poses that are going to get you just right for bed. So as we go through these poses and these sequences, I encourage you to really take your time, go through the transitions slowly, and if you want to stay in a pose a little bit longer, if it feels that extra little bit delicious, then I encourage you to do so. And of course, always just focusing on your breath. I will be guiding the breath throughout our whole practice, but always keeping in mind that nice, even flow of your breathing. So tonight we are going to be practicing starting on our backs. You do not need any props. You can do this wherever you have a floor space, wherever you have a mat. But if you do find that you do not have a mat and you just have a floor space and you need a bit of an extra cushion for your knees, it might be handy just to have a little blanket to place underneath your knees, okay? So we're gonna start today by coming to lie on our back. And as we are just unwinding from the day, we are just going to lie down and we're gonna start by reaching our arms overhead, getting a nice full stretch through the sides of the body, opening out through the hips, taking a moment to check in with the feet. So you might point the toes and then flex through the heels. You might do the same with the hands, opening out through the hands, rolling out through the wrists. And we'll take one more breath here. And then exhale, we're just going to cross our arms overhead. So you'll have opposite palm to opposite elbow. And we're just going to take a moment here to focus on our breathing. The breath is the most important part of a yoga practice. It is more important than flexibility, than strength. It's more important than getting a pose exactly right. How you are breathing is what guides the whole practice. So just taking a moment to notice your breath. What is the pace of your breath? And can you begin to deepen this breath, taking fuller inhales and longer exhales? Going a little bit deeper on your inhale. A little bit longer on your exhale. We'll take one more breath here. And then on your next exhale, bringing your arms down by your sides. And we're just going to rest our palms on our lower belly. There's a couple of options with this pose. You can either keep your legs long towards the end of the mat, but some people like to use alternate versions. Alternate versions can be bending your knees and just resting the soles of your feet on the mat. This is a really grounding version of this pose. Another version is what is called Reclined Batakanasana. This is a pose where we simply place the soles of our feet together. We have our knees bent, pointed out to the sides. This is a bit of a hip opener, so totally an option. If it does not feel comfortable, you can always just place hands on the outsides of your thighs, draw your legs in, lengthen them out, whatever you prefer. We're just going to take a moment here, either with legs extended, knees bent, or knees out in Reclined Batakanasana, resting palms on the lower belly. And before we begin our physical practice, we are going to take 3 cleansing breaths. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 3 breaths together. On our inhale, we're going to breathe deeply into the belly, filling up through the whole body, and we're going to pause for a moment at the end of this inhale. So it's like you're just holding your breath just for a second. And then we're going to exhale and fully release out of the mouth. So this is a really nice cleansing breath, really good just to refresh as we start to wind down at the end of the day. Okay, so if you like closing your eyes, getting into your comfortable position, whichever variation you prefer, palms on your belly. And then all together we will exhale first. And then inhale, breathing into the belly. Imagine that you are filling up the body with this breath, with what we call in yoga the prana, pausing for a moment at the end of the inhale. And exhaling to release. 2 more breaths like this. Inhaling, nice full big breath into the belly, pausing for a moment at the end of your inhale. And exhale. Final time. Inhaling, nice big breath, filling up this nice nourishing breath into the body, all the way up to the crown of the head, pausing for a moment here. And exhale. Then coming back to a natural pace of breath, a natural rhythm. Now we're going to begin to invite a bit of movement into our practice. But I would encourage you to remember that as we start to move in our practice, remember to match your movement with your breathing. So every time we move, we are flowing with our breath. So the breath will be guiding us through our whole practice. Now, if you are in Reclined Batakanasana, you might want to place your palms on the outsides of your thighs, slowly drawing your legs back in towards each other. If legs are lengthened towards the end of the mat, we will all bend our knees, hug our knees in towards our bodies. Now, a couple of options here. Sometimes it's nice just to hug your knees in and just rest here, feeling the back of your body pressing into the mat. And of course, if you just want to sway a little from side to side, kind of like a little back massage, noticing your breath. And then we're going to come back to center. And then as we come back to center, we are going to check in with our feet. This is something that we don't always get to do because our feet are in shoes. They are walking around throughout the day. So we're going to take a moment just to open out through the toes and then point the toes. And we're also going to roll out through the ankle joints. Okay, so even though this is really subtle movement, it feels so good. And you might even hear those little cracks and pops in the joints. This is so important for your feet at the end of the day. We don't always get that chance to get flexibility, but also strength into the feet, especially if you are going into standing postures. It's really good to have this flexibility. And then you might even start to lengthen this into the rest of your legs, lengthening one leg, keeping opposite knee bent, and going to opposite leg. So lengthening one leg, opposite knee is bent. This is kind of like you're bicycling out the legs, but really slowly. Slowly is the key. And I would like to remind you as well that there's no real right or wrong with this. It's just kind of exploring, opening out into the lower part of the body. So taking 1 or 2 more breaths here. And then as you exhale, bring your legs back in towards each other. And then from here, we're going to come into what's called a happy baby pose. 2 options in happy baby. You can either just place your palms on your kneecaps, opening your knees out to the sides. Really great for the back as your back is grounding into the mat. Nice opener into the hips. An alternate version going into full happy baby is to take index finger and middle finger. This is almost like my airplane stewardess fingers, hooking them on the big toes and then opening the legs out so legs are out to sides of the arms. If you have a really nice support in your back, this is really great for the spine. So as you come into this pose, taking a nice full breath into the back, you'll feel the back opening as you press into this inhale. And then taking a full exhale. If you want to stay here for another breath or two, you can absolutely do that. It's such a nice pose, really grounding, but also a nice little stretch for the hips. And then in your own time, slowly, we're going to start to bring our legs back in towards each other and then come into a side stretch. I also like to call this pose the banana. So we are going to start by lengthening our legs towards the end of the mat. And then again, reaching our arms overhead. And again, we're going to stretch into the whole body. And then what we're going to do from here is we're going to take our left heel and place it towards the end corner of the mat. And then take your right foot and just cross it over the left. And then we're going to bring our hands up towards the upper left corner of the mat. So your torso and the back of your body is in the same position, but your hands and feet are out towards the end corners. This is why it's called the banana. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a nice big breath, lengthening into the arms and the legs. But then on your exhale, completely release any effort, any engagement in the arms and the legs. So you're just feeling your breath moving into the right side of your body. If you want to close your eyes here and just notice that movement from the right upper arm into the shoulder on the right side, into the right side rib cage. We'll take another 2 breaths here on this side. One more breath. And then slowly on your next exhale, uncrossing right foot, coming back to center. This time, right heel to end right corner of the mat, and then crossing left foot just over the right. And then we're going to be reaching our hands up towards the upper right-hand corner. So this time, again, coming into our opposite banana shape. Inhaling to lengthen into the arms and the legs, but then remember to use your exhale to completely release. So as we release here, you're just feeling the breath moving into the left side of the body. Again, noticing this breath. Noticing how you don't have to have any effort to get the benefits of this stretch. You simply just breathe into the left side, opening into the left side, using your exhale to release. One more breath here. And on your next exhale, fully releasing, slowly coming back to center. As we come back to center, we'll take one more breath here and then exhale, begin to bring your arms down by your sides. From here, we're going to bend our knees, place the soles of our feet on the mat. We're going to go into a sequence called moving bridge. Moving bridge is really good for the spine. It invites a little bit of strength, but is also really in line with that sense of flow. It's also excellent for the nervous system, really calms the nervous system as we are working with the spine. So in our base bridge position, we start with our back on the mat, soles of the feet are on the mat, knees pointed up towards the sky, knees and feet are about hip-width distance apart. Arms will come down by your sides and you want your palms facing down. Important thing here, check in with your shoulder blades. You might walk your shoulder blades in towards each other because you want support in your back. So we are going to do 3 rounds of moving bridge, and we want to go really slowly with this. So bringing your hips to a neutral position, making sure they're not tucked in too far, not too far forward. They're just at neutral. And then we start from our base bridge position. We take an inhale into our belly. And then as you exhale, start to press into your feet first. Begin to tuck your hips in towards your belly button so you just feel your tailbone lift off the mat. And then inhale as you begin to roll the lower back and then the mid back off the mat. So we're lifting up now into a full bridge pose. As we come into our full bridge pose, you might close your eyes and just notice the foundation in the soles of your feet and your upper back. but also notice that openness through the front of your body. We'll take one more inhale here. Going through our bridge sequence, use your exhale, starting with the exhale, but taking a couple of breaths to slowly roll the back of the body down. So you want to imagine that you're going vertebrae by vertebrae along the spine, releasing onto the mat. Once the back of your body touches down, take another inhale into the belly. Exhale, hips tuck in, press into the feet. Inhale to roll the lower back and then the mid back off the mat, lifting up into our full bridge. As our chest is tucked in towards the chin, notice the sound of your breath. Inhaling, breathing into the fronts of the hips. Exhaling again, starting with the exhale, but taking a couple of breaths to slowly roll the back of the body down. Once the back of the body touches down, rolling the lower back onto the mat. Last time, inhale into the belly. And exhale, hips tuck in, tailbone lifts, pressing into your feet, nice and slow, rolling to inhale, lifting up into our full bridge pose. Last breath in bridge. And exhale slowly again, starting to roll back down. As we roll down, rolling into the mid back, then the lower back, releasing the backs of the hips on the mat. Taking a breath here, and then we'll hug our knees back in towards our body. From here, we are going to roll over onto one side and bring ourselves up to a seated position. So take your time as you roll over. As you roll over onto your side, you might even rest here for a moment, pausing whenever you need, and then placing one hand on the floor or on your mat, bringing yourself up to a seated position. So from here, we are going to come straight out of our seated position and come forward onto our hands and knees into neutral tabletop. So from neutral tabletop, what we're going to do is we're going to work with a few cat-cow variations. So we're going to start with cat-cow, and then I'm going to give you some options from there. So regular cat-cow is where we just come onto the mat, onto all fours, hands and knees. Fingers are spread onto the mat. You want to make sure shoulders are directly over wrists and hips are directly over knees. You can either keep toes tucked under behind you for support or rest tops of feet on the mat. Whichever feels more comfortable for you is totally okay. So from here, we're going to start first with the inhale, lifting the tailbone. So as you inhale, tailbone lifts, belly opens forward, chest forward, crown of the head lifts. And then begin your exhale, tucking your tailbone, rounding the spine, ears in between upper arms. Inhaling, tailbone lifts, belly forward, chest lifts, crown of the head lifts. Exhale, rounding the spine. Ears in between upper arms. One more time. Inhale, tailbone lifts, belly forward, chest lifts, crown of the head lifts. Exhale, round the spine. Now from here, I'll give you a few moments to either continue with this cat-cow movement, but anyone who wants to invite some alternative movements, there's some really nice things that you can do with cat-cow. We almost call these intuitive movements. So this might mean from your cat-cow stance, opening out through the sides of the ribs, maybe just rocking from side to side, opening into the sides of the hips. Another good variation is just to rock your hips back towards your heels and then rock forward, maybe even inviting a little bit of strength into the upper body if that feels good. Any sort of figure 8 movements that you like. Remembering to keep the breath nice and open. Taking a couple more breaths wherever you are. If you want to keep doing this for a little while longer, you can. You might even feel this in the wrists. Sometimes it's nice to make a few circles with your upper body around the wrists. Good for a bit of wrist strength. And then we are going to come back to center in your own time, releasing into what's called resting hare pose. Knees open out to edges of the mat, big toes touch, hips sink back towards your heels, and arms will lengthen forward. You'll rest your forehead on the mat And just breathe into the backs of the hips, breathing into the length of the spine. You'll also feel this into the upper arms and into the shoulder blades. We'll stay here for 1 or 2 more breaths. And taking 1 more breath here. And then on your next inhale, coming into a hair width side stretch. Lift your head, look forward, walk your hands off to the left side of the mat. Lengthen into the right side. And then as you exhale, drop your right hip back towards right heel, forehead resting on the mat. Take a couple of breaths here and breathe into the right side of the body. Notice how this feels, lengthening into right side. 1 more breath here. Next, inhale, lift your head. Walk your hands back to center and then off to the right side of the mat. Inhale, lengthen into left side. And then exhale, drop forehead down towards the mat. So this time we're just feeling the breath moving into the left side rib cage. Inhale, breathing into left side. Exhaling. 1 more breath here. Exhale. Next, inhale, lift your head, look forward. Come back to center. From here, we are going to rock forward again. We're going to come back to our neutral tabletop. We're going to take a moment just to open out through the feet. So lifting your feet off the mat, take a moment just to roll out through your ankle joints, maybe point your toes, flex through your heels, because we're going to be coming into downward dog from here. So in downward dog, we are going to start first by planting our palms into the mat, spreading fingers, and then from here we are going to tuck our toes under. So really nice, slow movement into downward dog. Press back into your heels, lengthen through your spine with your knees bent, and then we're going to inhale, lift our hips up towards the sky. So in downward dog, rather than just holding in downward dog, take a couple of moments to walk out through your legs, bending one knee and then bending the other, opening out through your feet. You might even rock your hips a bit from side to side. Notice your breath. If you need, you can even step your feet back a little. And just if you like, if you find a space where you do want to hold in downward dog, you might find a space where you can lengthen through the spine, lengthening through the backs of the legs. You can stay here for a little while longer if you like. And whenever you are ready to release, we will release knees out to edges of the mat. Sink hips back towards our heels, coming back into our resting hare pose. We'll meet in resting hare pose in just the next couple of breaths, so take your time as you come to resting hare. And you can either rest in hare pose for the next couple of breaths, and anyone who would like to come to a seated position can just come to sit with their hips back towards their heels, palms resting on the tops of their thighs. And of course, if you want to take a moment just to rest your hands over your heart, checking in with your breath. And we'll take 1 more breath here, wherever you are. And then if you are still in resting hare pose, we'll go ahead and walk our hands back towards our knees, nice and slow movements. And then we are all going to swing our legs out to the side. And then lengthening our legs forward, we're going to come into what's called a Dandasana Pose, or a seated pose, and we're going to come into a forward fold. So from Dandasana, we're going to start just by lengthening into the backs of the legs and then placing palms on the sides of the hips. You want to start first by checking in with your shoulders, because sometimes our shoulders can be bunched up towards our ears. So we want to make sure shoulders are relaxed back and down. We'll take an inhale here, lengthening up through the crown of the head. And then rather than just coming into a straight forward fold, take an inhale to lengthen. And then as you exhale, fold just a little bit. And then inhale, lengthen again. And then exhale, fold a little bit more. And then inhale to lengthen again. Exhale, fold. You might notice a space where you just want to pause. You may just find a space that feels nice and you just want to rest there. You might even find a space where your upper back starts to round. But notice your breath. Notice where you feel this in the back of the body, but also in the backs of the legs. You might rest your arms down by the sides of your legs. But all the while, continuing this nice steady rhythm with your breathing. And we'll take one more full breath here. Exhaling. And on your inhale, slowly start to walk your hands back up your legs, back to the sides of your hips. We're going to come to the center of our mat. We're going to come into a final twist. So we're going to come to our mat and slowly lying back. So coming back down onto resting on our backs, and then going into our spinal twist. Again, really, really good for our nervous system, any of these sequences that we're doing with our spine. So hugging our knees in towards our body again. This time, we are going to keep our right knee hugged in, and we're going to lengthen left leg towards the end of the mat. If you like, you can pause here for a moment, maybe even rocking the right knee from side to side, getting a little bit of mobility in the hip joints. And then coming back to center, notice where the backs of your hips are on the mat, and walk the backs of your hips just an inch or two over towards the right. With left palm on outside of right knee, we're going to draw right knee across the body towards the left side. If you have space with your right hand, you can open your right arm out or bend right elbow at a 90-degree angle. Turn your gaze to look past the right shoulder, or you can just look up towards the sky, or even just close your eyes. And just notice this shoulder opener on the right side into the right side hip. Noticing your breath. And taking 2 more breaths here in this twist, noticing how with every exhale you can twist just a little bit deeper. One more breath here. And on your inhale, we're going to come back to center, so slowly untwisting from this pose, bringing backs of hips back to center. Go ahead and hug left knee back in. And then this time, keep left knee hugged in, lengthen right leg towards the end of the mat. Pause here for a moment if you like. And if you want, you can even rock the left knee from side to side. Again, really nice opener for the left side hip joints. And then we'll come back to center. Walk backs of hips just an inch or two over towards the left. This time, right hand to outside of left knee. Left knee draws across the body towards the right. Again, left hand, if you have space, can open out to the side, either with arm long or left elbow bent. And then either looking up towards the sky or looking past the left side shoulder, noticing your breath and noticing how the twist changes ever so slightly as you breathe. As you inhale, you might lessen into the twist, but as you exhale, you deepen into the twist. So it's almost like a bit of a detox for the abdominal organs as you twist towards the right. One more inhale. And this time, as you exhale, releasing back to center. Backs of hips come back to center. And last time, we'll just squeeze our legs in towards our bellies. Again, you can either just rest here with arms wrapped around your knees. And just if it feels nice, you can rock from side to side. And then from here, we will be lengthening our legs towards the end of the mat. We'll be coming into our final resting pose here, coming into our final Shavasana. After our physical practice, we completely release, allowing our bodies to release any effort, any action. So bringing arms down by your sides, palms facing up. And we'll take a moment to notice if our breath has changed throughout our practice, or has your awareness of your breath changed? Are you more aware of the quality of your breathing? Or do you actually feel that your breath has deepened in your body? Sometimes in yoga, we say that you should imagine that you're breathing all the way down to your toes. And people are like, how can I breathe down to my toes? But if you really think about it, every time you breathe, every cell in your body is getting the benefit of that new oxygen, that new energy, what we call in yoga the prana. So your body is constantly being revitalized by this breath. So if you think about or tune into that vibrancy that you feel in your fingertips and your toes and your back, in your belly and your chest, noticing the breath in your face and your nose, your throat. And then if you would like to stay here for a little while longer, you are absolutely welcome to. You can stay in Shavasana as long as you like, as long as feels good for the end of your practice. If you are ready to come out of your practice, an option is to slowly roll over onto your side. As you roll onto your side, I encourage you just to rest here for 3 breaths, noticing how it feels as you bend your knees in, resting palms on top of each other. And we'll take one more breath here. Then placing one palm on the floor or on the mat, slowly bring yourself up to a seated position. We'll come to sit for a moment, cross-legged or any way that you prefer on the mat. And just taking a moment to pause. If you want, you can close your eyes and just reflect on your practice. Taking a nice deep breath in, exhaling to release. And thank you for taking the time to unwind with me tonight.